They stripped her in the town square to shame her. She didn't bow. She stood tall. And when the SEAL leader saw the tattoo on her back, he froze, because it held the secret he'd been hunting for 10 years. Press play. You're not ready for Sopiha Robert. Sopiha Robert stepped off the bus with sand in her shoes and a taste of salt on her tongue. The town was small. One road in, one road out. A dusty road that cut the coast like a scar. Her watch had stopped 2 years ago. The glass was cracked. The hands were stuck at or 2:17. She wore it anyway. She pressed the face to her wrist when she was scared. She said it kept time the way memory does. It was always midnight somewhere. Her wallet was empty. Not just low, empty. She could feel the weight of nothing in it. It made her walk differently. Lighter, but not free. A gull screamed. A door slammed. Someone laughed behind her. Men at the pier were hauling lines. The town smelled like diesel, wet rope, and old secrets. She passed a sign for a naval training compound. Shelter Bay, authorized personnel only. A flag snapped in the wind. She let her eyes trace the fence until she found the gaps. She always looked for gaps. A white truck rolled by. The driver wore a cap with a trident pin. The passenger was still eyes alert. He watched her like she was a map he already knew how to read. She kept walking. At the market, she bought nothing. She touched oranges and set them down. She stood near the coffee stall for warmth and left before the kettle sang. People stared. Not cruel. Curious. She looked like a girl who had traveled far and left something important behind. Looking for work? The stall owner asked. I'm looking for a name, she said. What name? She pulled a scrap from the empty wallet. It was old paper folded many times. Hale. The stall owner's eyes flicked toward the base road. Commander Hale? Rafe Hale, she said. You're early or you're late, the owner said. He's both. She found a room over a garage with a window that stuck and a bed that squeaked. The landlord took her last coin like he was accepting a tip for a truth he hadn't told. She set the broken watch on the sill. She set the empty wallet beside it. The light slid across both and fell onto the floor like another thing that might leave. At dusk, she walked the shore. The tide clawed at the rocks. She picked up a shell and held it to her ear and heard nothing. Good. Silence had edges. Sound could lie. There was a memorial near the pier. Names on bronze, dozens. She ran her fingers down the list. A gull feather stuck to the corner. She peeled it away. The metal was cold. Lose someone? A voice asked. She turned. A man stood in the wind with the ocean behind him and the base at his back. The lines on his face were old and earned. His gaze was the kind ships obey. Not yet, she said. That's a hard promise to keep in a town like this. He wore no rank.
He didn't need to.
He had the posture of a gate you could not move. He studied her watch, then her shoes, then the nothing in her hands. You're new, he said. Depends on from where. What's your name? Sopiha Robert, Commander Rafe Hale. They didn't shake hands. The wind did it for them. What do you want here, Ms. Robert? A question answered. What's the question? She watched the surf gnaw at the pilings. Who decides what the ocean keeps? He almost smiled. Tide, time, men with boats. Men with boats lose things, she said. Sometimes they find them again. Sometimes they tell stories instead. He waited. She looked past him to the flag and the fence and the shadowed buildings beyond. You led Blue Team a decade ago, she said. Operation Sable Wake, it went bad. Someone lived who wasn't supposed to live. Someone who remembers. I'm here for that memory. The wind dropped like a held breath. Hale's voice did not change. That was classified. Not to the cold water, she said. Who are you to the water? Someone it forgot to kill. They faced the sea. He folded his arms. The light left the day. The first harbor lamps blinked awake. Tomorrow, he said. 9 a.m. I ask questions. You answer. And if I don't? Then you'll learn what the ocean keeps, he said. It keeps its own. She watched him go. His back was a straight line. His shadow was longer than his steps. Back in the room, the window stuck again. She pressed the broken watch to her wrist. She lay on the bed that squeaked. She dreamed of a hull number. She dreamed of deep green. She dreamed of a secret burned into skin where hands could not reach. At dawn, the town woke like it was afraid to. A siren far off. A dog bark. Boats murmuring into the fog. At 8:59, she stood in the square. At 9, she was not alone. At 9:02, the first stone flew. It missed. But the second didn't. A voice from the crowd spit anger and brine. Thief! Another voice. Spy! Hands closed around her sleeves. She did not run. She did not lift her arms to protect her face. She lifted them to keep her balance. And the crowd stripped her coat away. Then her shirt. The ocean watched. She stood tall. A hush fell like a dropped net, and Commander Hale, pushing through the ring of shoulders, stopped dead when he saw her back, and the tattoo the sea had etched there. The square smelled like rope and rust. The air was thin with shame and salt. Fog curled low. Everything close. Everything loud. Her coat lay in the dirt. Her shirt was tangled in a stranger's hand. She wore a dark sports bra that had seen too much bleach and not enough sun. She crossed her arms to warm herself. Not to hide. What is that? Someone said. Another voice answered without breath. A map. Hale stepped forward. He took in the curves of ink. He did not touch. His eyes moved like a pro diver's hands, quick, careful, certain where to look. The tattoo wasn't a picture. Not at first glance. It was scars braided into lines. It was numbers that weren't numbers until you knew the sea. It was a bird that wasn't a bird until you watched it rise. The lines ran shoulder to shoulder, then down the spine, then fanned like tide rip through shoals. Within the lines were micro marks. Hull marks, depth marks, the kind technicians whisper to steal. A boy started to laugh. He stopped when the woman next to him elbowed his ribs. Fear made them all quiet. Who did this to you? Hale asked. The ocean, she said. That's not an answer. It's the only one I trust. He took off his jacket and held it out. She did not take it. The square wanted a show. She gave them something else. I didn't steal from your boats, she said to the crowd. I stole from the lie that set on your pier like a sunset that never ended. You speak in riddles, a man said. I speak in what I have left, she said. Hale glanced at the men who had torn her coat. Apologize, he said, quiet, final. They looked at their boots. One muttered sorry. One didn't. A phone came up. A recording light blinked. The square took a breath, the way a crowd does when a story chooses its audience. Hale's voice was sanded down. Who put those coordinates on you? She tilted her head. You recognized them. He didn't deny it. She waited. He waited. Inside, he said at last. Now. Not until they see, she said. See what? That you have questions they can't ask. That this is coming with or without you. He weighed her. He weighed the town. He weighed the fence and the flag and the storm the camera lens promised to bring. He took off his cap. He looked tired in a way that doesn't sleep. You will come with me, he said. By your feet or by mine? She nodded. By mine. She put on the coat. She left the shirt in the dirt. The men who had stripped it from her did not move to pick it up. A gull landed on it and stabbed its beak into the fabric like it could find food in thread. They walked. The dusty road out of the square felt like a bridge between seasons. She walked beside Hale without speaking. The watch on her wrist ticked in her mind, though it did not move. She clutched the empty wallet and felt the edges of the paper inside. The paper had a smell. Old books and oil. The smell of a story that's been read too many times and still refuses to end. At the base gate, the guard stiffened. Hale showed his card. The guard's eyes slid to Sopiha. He looked like a man trying to decide if something was a storm or a miracle. Inside, the buildings were plain. The floors were clean. The walls had framed photos of teams and boats and men who stared out like they knew how short every smile is. Hale led her to a room with a table and 2 chairs. He told the camera to stay off. It stayed on. Sit, he said. She did. Start at the beginning. There is no beginning, she said. Only water. I can have you removed, he said. You can try. But I think you want what I brought more than you want me gone. What did you bring? She opened the empty wallet. She unfolded the scrap inside. It was a rubbing. Graphite on thin paper. It was the inside of a dog tag pressed against skin and captured by time. It carried a number not on the memorial and a ghost of a name the brass had rubbed away. The edges were burned. He stared. His pupils narrowed. Where did you get that? From under a door on a boat that sank but didn't drown. You're talking in fog again. Maybe fog is the only honest air we have left. He leaned forward. His shoulders were quiet, but his eyes were loud. You said sable wake, he said. No one says that in this town. Not without trying to pull the ocean down on their own head. I didn't come to drown. The door opened. A woman stepped in, gray hair tied back, clipboard in hand. She looked at Sopiha. She looked at Hale. She looked at the camera that was supposed to be off. "Sir," she said, "we have a situation." Hale didn't look away from Sopiha. "We always have a situation. Not like this. What is it?" "Someone just posted video from the square," she said. "It's everywhere." "Good," Sopiha said. The woman ignored her. "And there's more," she said. "The hull number on the rubbing." "It's in the archive, but redacted. Even from you," Hale stood. The room tilted around his silence. "Who can redact me?" he asked. The woman swallowed. "The man who mentored you. The Admiral?" She nodded. Sopiha watched him choose a face, then choose another. "You want the truth," she said softly. "So do I, but I didn't bring you paper to make you read. I brought you my back so you'd remember." "Remember what?" "That you lost someone who didn't stay lost." His hands hit the table. Not hard, just enough to convince Wood to listen. "Who?" She turned slowly and lifted her coat again. The ink lifted with her skin. The lines brightened under the room's bad light. She reached up and traced one small mark near her left shoulder blade. "Here," she whispered. "Here is where she breathed last." And then breathed again. "Who?" he demanded. "Sable Wake wasn't a failure," she said. "It was a door. To where?" "To me," she said. Before he could ask more, the window behind him clicked. It shouldn't have. It was locked. It clicked again. The glass bowed, then shattered inward, and a thin, humming dart buried itself in the chair where her head had been. The door opened. A man filled it, tall, trim. The room bent toward his will. "Commander Hale," he said like a verdict. "Admiral Merrick," Hale replied. Merrick's eyes flicked over Sopiha. The coat. The cuts, the ink. He did not hide his recognition, or his fear. "You should have called me the moment you saw that," he said. "I was busy catching darts," Hale said. Merrick's smile was thin. "Stand down. Both of you." The medic froze. The clipboard woman had vanished into the base like smoke. "Who fired it?" Hale asked. Merrick ignored the question. He drew a small cloth from his pocket and polished a brass ring on his finger. It was a habit of someone who needed something to control. "Ms. Robert," he said, gentle. "You've had a long day. We'll find you a warm room. No more surprises." Sopiha's empty wallet lay on the tray near the sink. She kept it in her sight. The broken watch on her wrist dug at her bone. "I don't want your rooms," she said. "You want answers," Merrick said. "I have them." "You had them for 10 years, Hale said. "You kept them." The Admiral's jaw clicked once. "Sable Wake cost lives." "It still is," Sopiha said. Merrick glanced at the tattoo. "Where did you get that pattern?" "The ocean. Try again." "I won't," she said. He stepped closer than the room wanted him to. He smelled like bay rum and locked doors. "You were on the water the night of 02-17, he said. "You washed up a year later with nothing but scars and a name that doesn't fit. You think you're a message? You are a mess." Hale moved between them. "Enough." Merrick said it like a prayer. "Those marks are a channel chart to the Sable field. There's an inlet under the point. It appears at the lowest tide of the lowest month. It leads to a dry chamber built in the Cold War. We used it once." His eyes found Hale's. Stayed. "And we lost something there we could not admit existed." Silence bit them. "What did you lose?" Sopiha asked. "A promise," Merrick said. "And a person who kept it." The medic's radio crackled. Ghostquarry's handle flashed across a tiny screen. New post, new threat. She turned the volume down, but not fast enough. A video stuttered open, grainy, green water, a hand against a porthole, a breath-fogging glass, a finger tracings 02-17. A dog tag pressed to the lens like a kiss. Hale's face emptied and then filled with something older than rank. Merrick shut the radio off. His own watch face glinted. "Its hands were stuck at 02-17, sir," Hale said. Merrick didn't look at him. "She's alive," he said. The siren outside went from distant to present. Boots hit concrete. The window frame spidered again. Merrick stepped aside and let the men in, and their rifles centered on Sopiha. "Lower them," Hale said. The rifles sank but did not sleep. Merrick folded his arms. "We're leaving the base now." "To where?" Sopiha asked. "The dusty road," Merrick said. "The only one out. The only one in." He ushered them like a shepherd with wolves for dogs. The air outside tasted of copper and storm. The convoy rolled. The town watched with folded silence. The square was clean, like shame hadn't been there this morning. Hale drove the second truck. Sopiha sat beside him, jacket pulled close. The empty wallet rode on her knee. He glanced at it. Why keep it? He asked. It reminds me what I owe, she said. To whom? To the minute that won't move. They left the last house. The road turned to dust and memory. Scrub tugged the wind. The ocean blinked in and out between dunes like a secret trying to stay told. Merrick's truck led them down a rutted cut to a dead-end gate. Private property. No trespass. He keyed a pad tucked like a barnacle under a rusted beam. The gate sighed and opened to a skeleton pier and a shed with a roof like a broken tooth. Move, Merrick said. Inside the shed, coils of hose, old sonar, a calendar with no days crossed. A metal hatch squatted in the floor, round as a moon. The wheel was stiff. Hale put his hands on it. Sopiha put hers beside his. They turned. The metal gave up a long-held breath. Sea air surged up from the dark. Merrick passed Hale a rebreather pack. He hesitated. You trust him? Sopiha asked. I don't trust being late, Hale said. Then don't be, Merrick said. They climbed down a narrow shaft to a catwalk. The chamber beyond was a cavern scooped from rock and shadow. At its center, a pool lay black as a closed eye. Lowest tide is in 20 minutes, Merrick said, checking a tablet. The door below will open. For 10. Sopiha's watch, broken at 0217, pressed against her pulse. She breathed. She remembered cold that chooses you and cold that forgets. Who is she? She asked. Merrick didn't answer. Hale said. Her call sign was Lark. She sang when she was afraid. Soft. To herself. Then she dove anyway. Why didn't you say that sooner? Sopiha asked. Words cost less before you pay them, he said. Ghostquarry's post pinged on Merrick's tablet again. A single line. The inlet is not yours. The tablet died. Merrick looked at the dead screen like he could order it back. He couldn't. He looked at Sopiha instead. You caused this, he said. You brought eyes. You brought hope where there should be a plan. I brought both, she said. The tide dipped. The pool shuddered. Somewhere below, a mechanism woke with the sound of teeth surviving time. Hale checked his straps. He handed Sopiha a second pack he had hidden in his truck. Just in case we needed to disobey, he said. She smiled then, small, true. Thank you. Water drew back like a curtain. A stone arch showed. A metal hatch showed within it, round and scarred. One spoke bent. Merrick lifted a hand to stop them. The hatch wheel began to turn from the other side. Hale raised his palm. Quiet. The chamber listened. The wheel spun, slow with old grease. The hatch unsealed. Air exhaled. Brine and machine. A triangle of darkness opened. A figure crouched within the door. Wetsuit, tank, mask, small frame. The figure pulled the regulator and coughed a human cough. Lark, Hale said, but softly, like the name might break. She looked past him, past Merrick. Her eyes found Sopiha and did not let go. You came, the woman said. Sopiha's throat tightened. You sent me. Merrick's head jerked. What did you say? Lark half smiled. It was the smile of someone who had sharpened joy into a tool. I didn't drown, she said to Hale. I chose a different kind of air. She stepped onto the catwalk. Her knees wobbled, but purpose steadied the rest. She touched 2 fingers to the 0217 on Hale's watch face. It did not move. She laughed once. Stubborn minute, she said. Hale couldn't speak. Merrick could. You jeopardized a classified site. You disappeared with restricted equipment. You led this performance. He pointed at Sopiha's back. You used her. Lark's gaze did not blink. I saved her. Sopiha lifted her coat just enough for ink to breathe. Lark's eyes softened. I traced what the wreck carved, she said. On the first shore we found. I used charcoal from a stove in a nail-heated red. She didn't cry. I had no voice to cry with, Sopiha said. You gave it back. 1 mark at a time. Merrick stepped forward. Why? Because we hauled 12 people from a trafficking hold the night Sable Wake failed, Lark said. We were told to leave them when the blowout hit. We were told to save the mission, not the lives. Rafe jumped back anyway. I jumped after him. Only one of us surfaced. She touched Sopiha's shoulder. And one of us didn't need to. Hale closed his eyes. The chamber shifted around his grief. When he opened them, they were new. Where are the others? He asked. Lark's jaw worked. 5 lived a year. 2 made land. 1 became a rumor with a name that didn't fit. She squeezed Sopiha's arm. The rest are missing. Not dead, missing. Merrick's face was pale salt. You should have come home. Home was the lie, Lark said. They would have erased what we saw. I needed a witness the ocean could keep when men could not. I needed time to go stubborn. I needed her. The catwalk trembled. Above, a muffled engine throbbed. Not theirs. Hale moved to the shaft. He listened. The sound was wrong for rescue. Too heavy. Too sure. Ghostquarry, Lark said. Or someone who likes his noise. Merrick gripped the rail. We can still seal the hatch. Wait it out. No, Sopiha said. She pulled the empty wallet open. Not empty now. Inside lay the burned rubbing and something flat and round. A coin punched with a hole, sea-worn. She held it up. A key, you hid it in the dog tag rubbing. The pencil masked it. Lark nodded. Through the door inside the door. The dry chamber has a second seal. If we open it, we reach the old comms rack. We can broadcast blind to Blue Water assets. Past Merrick. Past Ghostquarry. Past whoever thinks they own low tide. Hale held out his hand. Sopiha placed the coin on his palm. He closed his fingers. The minute on his watch didn't move, but his breath did. They moved along the catwalk toward the inner corridor. The rock sweated. The pool whispered. The broken watch kissed Sopiha's wrist with cold metal. Lark limped but would not stop. They reached another hatch, smaller, meaner. Hale slid the coin into a rusted slot and turned. The mechanism barked and then yielded. A light across the chamber snapped on. Then another. A narrow beam swept the catwalk. The upper hatch clanged open. Boots on metal. Voices hard and sure. The beam found them and held. A voice followed, amplified and calm. It rolled down into the old stone like a tide that had learned English. Commander Hale, the voice said. Ms. Robert, Lark, don't move. Sopiha knew the voice before she turned. Admiral Merrick stepped into the light at their backs, flanked by men who were not his. And someone else said, orders have changed. The voice came from the steel above and the stone around them. It was dry, certain, the kind of voice that never got wet. Orders have changed. Men in mat gear stepped through the upper hatch and spread along the rim. Not base police, not SEALs. Their boots were wrong. Their rifles were right. Patches on their sleeves showed a hook and a hollow crown. A man leaned on the rail like the chamber belonged to him. He wore no rank. He wore the room, Ghostquarry, Lark said. He smiled. That's a handle. Use it. Ms. Robert, thank you for the broadcast in the square. Your back is the best map I've seen in 10 years. Hale shifted. The catwalk groaned. This is a U.S. site. Ghostquarry's teeth caught the light. It was, he said. Then it fell out of your pocket and into mine. Merrick stepped forward like he still had gravity. You have no authority here. Ghostquarry didn't look at him. Authority is a ladder, Admiral. You're on a lower rung than you think. He nodded to his men. Charge the shaft. Leave the pool. We want the chamber intact. Magnet charges thumped against the climbway. A cable snaked down like a new root. Hale put his shoulder between Sopiha and the rifles on the rim. Lark slid her fingers along the inner hatch's rim, looking for a seam the years had forgotten. We have one door half open, she said. We need the second. Ghostquarry's voice drifted like cold smoke. We will open it for you. Then we will take what we came for, the recordings. The ledger. The old comms with their lovely timestamps, and the girl with the skin chart because she's the cut that never closed. Sopiha's empty wallet sat in her palm. Light, wrong. She opened it. The rubbing lay inside. The coin key was already in Hale's pocket. The sight of the emptiness kicked something in her ribs. Not fear, something older. She had lived with nothing. She knew how to hold it. She looked up. I'm done being carried, she said to nobody and everybody. Hale slid the coin into a second slot he found under rust. He turned it. The metal complained. A hinge screamed. The smaller hatch coughed dust. Inside was a short throat of concrete and a room beyond it, low and dry and square as an oath. A rack of gray equipment lined the wall. Coax cables looped like tired snakes. A power switch frowned at them. Ghostquarry's footsteps tapped along the upper rim. He did not hurry. He had time he thought was his. Merrick's face had lost all color. He was counting, Sopiha realized. Not seconds, decisions. Lark pulled Hale through the throat. Old Navy cold room, she said. They built these to talk past storms. It will talk past men. The three of them stepped into the square room as if into a mouth. The air was stale. The light was a single naked bulb. On the center console sat a rotary selector with chipped letters. BND, HF, VLF, SCRB. Below it, a small pale keypad waited like a safe you forgot you owned. Hale wiped grime with his sleeve. A number pad blinked awake, blue, tiny. What code? He asked. Lark's eyes flitted to Sopiha's watch. The cracked glass, the minute that would not move. She reached out and pressed her thumb to the face. They made me memorize one thing in the dark, she said. 2 numbers, a colon. 2 more, she typed 0217, the keypad pulsed. The selector clicked by itself to VLF. A relay popped. Under the floor, a battery stack woke up with a dry growl. Ghostquarry's voice came closer now. If you damage anything, I sink the town. You think I won't? Please try, Lark whispered, not for him. A small screen on the console flickered lines. Old characters. Hale twisted a gain knob. The room filled with hum. The hum turned into a slow, steady beat. The beat matched the tick the broken watch no longer had. A line of text appeared. Kestrel buoy, range 12.4 nem, handshake. Hale's breath went somewhere he hadn't stored it. Kestrel is still out there, he said. Almost to himself, handshake, Lark said. Now, he punched a key. The speaker crackled. A voice came thin and far and clear enough to save a life. Kestrel buoy, identity. Lark's lips moved. A song without sound. Then words. Blue Wake Salvage Station, Lark with 2. With more behind us. Traffic victims alive or missing. Orders compromised. Static ate some of it. Enough got through. The voice on the buoy picked up a second tone as if it had woken a second person from a long sleep. Copy partial. Confirm Lark. Hale leaned close to the mic. He had never prayed into a wire. He did now. She's here, a pause. Then, blue water asset on standby. Window before tide, +13. Acknowledge and mark. Lark grabbed the small lens on the panel and swung it toward Sopiha. It wasn't a camera in the modern sense. It was rough. It wanted contrast more than clarity. She shrugged off her coat and turned. She held the ink to the bulb. The lines flared. The ocean the tattoo had stolen back from the sea glowed on her skin. Ghostquarry's men reached the end of the catwalk. Hale hit send. The panel stuttered out a burst of tones neither human nor forgiving. Somewhere 12 miles out, a buoy coughed that tone up to something bigger and deeper that wore slate water like skin. The speaker answered with a strip of words that tasted like steel. Mark received. Confirm target is inland chamber. Confirm hostile presence. Stand by for tone, the tone came. It was low. It drove through bone. It felt like a ship turning in black water with purpose. Ghostquarry's shadow cut the doorway. He looked into the room and saw the ghostly glow of the map on a human back and a man in old grief. Hands on a panel built when secrets were all analog. Stop, he said. He wasn't smiling now. Merrick shoved 2 of Ghostquarry's men from the rim. It was a controlled shove. They slipped, hit knee, hit rail, grabbed air. One fell into the pool and went under. The other swung from a cable, cursing. Merrick took a punch that split his mouth and another that loosened his stance. He took them like a wall takes rain. Rafe, he shouted. Hale looked up. For a fraction, the room was the square was the pier was the night of 0217. Seal the inner door, Merrick said. Blood stained his teeth. Now Ghostquarry fired. The round bit, concrete near Hale's head. Dust jumped. The light flicked. Sopiha's empty wallet slid off the console. It hit the floor and tented open. The rubbing fluttered out. The dog-tag bloom of graphite brushed the air by her ankle and skated toward a floor grate. She dove and caught it with 2 fingers and a curse she said without sound. The paper was warm from her pocket. She folded it once, twice, and pushed it into the band of her broken watch. The cracked face pressed it down like glass over a small grave. She tightened the strap until it hurt. Lark pulled the inner hatch half shut. Hale grabbed the wheel. It moved like something from another life. The door kissed the jamb but did not seal. Ghostquarry jammed a boot in the gap. Don't, he said. Not loud. Just final. Tide hissed through the pool like a voice on its way to a word. On the speaker, Kestrel's voice returned. Blue Water Asset Commit in 9. You will not have another window. You are requested to mark friendly by signal phrase. Signal phrase, Hale said. Lark's eyes filled with the kind of water that stays put. What we sang in the dark, she whispered. She looked at Sopiha. Do you remember? Sopiha drew breath. Her back burned like a message being written again. Her throat had learned to be quiet. It could learn to speak. She sang one short bar. Not pretty. True. 4 notes she had carried through winter and code and sleep that never counted. The speaker answered with the same 4 notes, reversed, then a click. Friendly confirmed, the buoy said. Asset commit in 8. Ghostquarry shoved harder. The door bucked. The wheel spun backward under Hale's palms. Lark braced a shoulder and grunted. 2 of Ghostquarry's men found better footing and brought their rifles up. The world narrowed to the gap in the sound in the wire and the long, slow pull of the water. Merrick tore the magnet charge from the shaft and slapped it against the outer catwalk joint. A man swung his weapon toward him. Merrick didn't flinch. He looked down at Hale and Sopiha like a man looking down a dusty road he'd walked wrong for years. I'm out of rungs, he said. He smiled small and late. Do better with the next minute. He thumbed the trigger. The charge blew the catwalk into sparks and echo. The rim above collapsed inward. Ghostquarry fell sideways, catching the rail, cursing a name the water had owned since before he was born. Half his men went down. The light died. The chamber turned to thunder. Water slapped the pool hard. The inner door jerked. The wheel jumped in Hale's hands. Lark shoved. Sopiha pushed with both palms and every scar. The hatch sealed with a sound like a heart choosing to live. Darkness held. In the tight silence that followed the blast and the water, the console glowed thin and stubborn. The speaker clicked. The boy's voice was steady. Asset inbound 7.